Greetings, viewers of the internet. I'm SemiProStump, and this is the House of Stump, where stuff happens. War has come to Earth, and it is up to Commander Shepard to save the galaxy once more. Will this be a battle to remember, or will this plane be dismissed by the Turian Counselor while using finger quotes? Before I get to the main review, though, I would like to address the multiplayer feature that was tacked on. Yes, I said it, tacked on. Though it's somewhat interesting to play, I feel that it should not have been included in the final game. The only one I'll be blaming for this is EA, since they have the tendency to slap multiplayer on just about everything. It's bad enough that there's a Final Fantasy game that pretty much plays itself during a combat sequence, but when you put multiplayer on an RPG, that's a sacrilege. Granted, this is the console generation where everybody supposedly wants multiplayer, but it's not needed all the time. It's bad enough that the online pass, along with the Origin account, is required to play, which is just plain ridiculous. Before I turn this video into a complete rant, let's get to the actual review. Just so you know, the score from online play will be mentioned at the end, but it will not be factored into the final score of this review. Leave it to BioWare to tell such a story to where you develop an emotional connection with the characters in the game. There will be times where you will laugh and you will cry from what you experience. Pretty much everything save for one detail carries over from Mass Effect 1 and 2, which is Udina being the human council representative instead if you picked Anderson in Mass Effect 1. Outside of that, everything is pretty much dead on. With plot twists and various ways you can play through, you will be playing for quite a while. If you compare the overall look of Mass Effect from first to the third game, you will notice that the characters are improved visually to where it skims the uncanny valley. From your favorite characters to the enemies you fight, the amount of detail cannot be ignored. Even the weapons you carry around have their own unique look, so you won't be carrying a reskin of the same gun over and over. All in all, the designers have outdone themselves to bring a feast of the eyes, and I'm not referring to Miranda's ass. From the musical score to the sound effects in the game, you can expect nothing less than top quality. All the voice actors from the previous games are there to reprise their roles. With memorable music and sound effects to make you think that you're watching a high-budget sci-fi movie, there will not be a dull moment. The controls for Mass Effect 3 are self-explanatory and thus easy to remember. That said, the learning curve is not that high. The overall control scheme is basically a modified version of Mass Effect 2's with the addition of the heavy melee attack, which, timed right, can be badass. If compared to the previous versions, Mass Effect 3's controls are streamlined to where you can easily pick it up. In the event you plan on doing a straight run through the game with little to no side quests done, it can be completed in about 30 hours. On the other hand, if you plan on doing everything in the game before additional DLC is released, however, it will take about 40 plus hours with all the running around and backtracking you have to do. As for the multiplayer, which will be elaborated on shortly, is essentially a survival mode with up to 3 players. As stated briefly in the previous segment, multiplayer is a survival mode with additional objectives thrown in to keep things interesting. After each mission, you get credits to where you can purchase items to improve your character, but you also gain experience and level up as well. The multiplayer mode coincides with galactic readiness for the single player mode, which means in order to have things go well for you in single player, you have to do multiplayer. Personally, it shouldn't be an obligation to do so, and that is a bullshit maneuver by EA. With personal gripes out of the way, I can say though that there is virtually no lag whatsoever, which is a good thing if you're fighting off waves of enemies with up to 3 other people. I know quite a few people are expecting 2 different endings for Mass Effect 3, but BioWare decided to throw in a curveball by having 3 different endings this time. That means you have to choose carefully as to how you want your story to end. With that in mind, as you can import your save from Mass Effect 2, leaves quite a few possibilities open for you. In my case, I'll be playing through all 3 games in order, which would equal about 80 to 100 hours of gameplay, which will not be a dull moment for me at all. The final score I'm giving Mass Effect 3 is 9.8, and that's without multiplayer factored in. but for those who need to know, the adjusted score with multiplayer factored in is 9.5. So all in all, Mass Effect 3 is a good game to play with plenty of replayability. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for future reviews.